Okay, I'm going to unmute you, Belinda, and I will make you presenter. And we may even see you on camera. Hello, hello. Let me just unmute you, so that would be helpful. Oh, you're self-muted. So, Belinda, you'll just have to take off the muting. Let's see, I can see you, but I can't hear you. Now, we spoke just a minute ago, so we know it will work. Let's see. Let's just click that. Let's see.
Muted. Oh, hang on.
Oh, hello. I can hear you. Let's just check everyone else can hear. If you can hear both Belinda and I, gee, I'd hate it if we couldn't hear either of us. Just type in the chat there. And yep, so Scott says yes. Danielle, hi Danielle. Hi, Tiffany. All good. So that's great. So if you just want to put your slides on presentation, because I can see all your upcoming slides and I will read ahead.
There we go.
Fantastic. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Now I just want to make sure my display's just changed. Can you still see me as well as my slides?
I can see you. You're just in the little box at the top and your slides underneath. So technology is working. And as we said, we would hope it would, as you're in Silicon Valley. So if it doesn't work for you, it's not going to work for anyone.
Yeah, that's what we were saying. I'm the land of the internet. And I really appreciate you inviting me here to talk about this, Kerry. You cannot
not a problem.
stop me talking about copywriting. So this is something I'm quite excited to talk to everyone about.
Actually, before I let you get started, I just should have mentioned that we have left some time for questions at the end. So Belinda is happy to take any questions that you have. So just type those in the chat box if you think of them, and I'll when Belinda's finished, she'll hand back to me and I'll read those out to her. So thanks,
Perfect.
Belinda. I will mute myself and I'll leave it to you.
Okay, now just quickly before we get started on those questions, some of the techniques that we're going to go through, you might think, I understand this in theory, but I can't figure out how to make this work for my business. So feel free to, I'm open to workshopping some things in the question time as well, and we do have stacks of time. So today, we're going to be talking about how to shine a spotlight on your business, the copywriting secrets to letting your business become more visible to customers. So I'm going to be actually taking you through some proven techniques that copywriters use, that I use to help my clients stand out from their competition and to bring in more business, because at the end of the day, that's what we're all about. And this can seem especially difficult when you're in a very crowded marketplace, but with a few tips and tricks up your sleeve, I hope that you will walk away today feeling empowered that you too can write the words you need to shine a spotlight on your business. So today, I'm going to take you through 5 ways that you can make your business sound unique, even when it's not. We're going to look at some writing tips to help you connect more strongly with your readers, who are your potential customers, and if they can trust you, trust leads to sales. It's a really important first step. And we're going to be looking at the importance of credibility markers, those signposts that you need to be talking about and showing to help that trust process. And then, as I said, we're going to have plenty of time for questions. So as Kerry said, this is me. You can see me, look a bit different, got short hair, but I can assure you, still me. So I started my business Copyright Matters in 2010 while I was working full-time as a marketer. I love marketing, but at the time, didn't really like my job. So I started looking at my options, and that's when I found out copywriting was something I could do all on its own, and that's when I started my very own business. So I threw all my marketing know-how into getting my business going, and within 6 months, I'd actually matched my full-time monthly salary with the income from my copywriting side gig. And I bagged my current employer as my first retainer client on the way out of the cube farm, and I've never looked back. And since then, I've developed a 6-figure business that has come with me from Australia to England, from England to Australia, from Australia over here to California, and that's where I live now with my husband, my pug, and my 2 girls. And I'm not showing you a picture of my kids because it's all about my dog. This is my dog Fenris. He's in every presentation I do, and it's a glorious creature. So enough about my dog. Let's get in. I would love to know, before we kick off, what do you find most difficult when it comes to writing about your business? So what's your biggest challenge when you have to sit down and write about your business? I'd love to know in the chat box. And if I can't see that, then maybe Kerry, you can read those out to me. I wonder if I can see the chat box.
Yeah, you might be able to see it. I'm not sure, but I can definitely read those out for you. So
Cool.
yeah, just type those into the chat box. I know when I've spoken to members in the past, it is around that sounding unique and like Kathy has said here, self-complimenting. So how do you, yeah, I guess how do you talk about yourself
Yep.
when you don't want to sound like you're, I guess, big noting yourself. Danielle said, putting my thoughts and ideas into words that sound, sorry, they're coming in thick and fast, that sound
Great. Love it.
professional.
Yep.
Justin said, just where to start. Melissa
Yes.
said, coming up with something unique. Kelsey also said, constantly coming up with new, unique material.
Yep.
Gianella said, finding the right words to attract clients.
Oh, perfect. Kerry, we've got lots of
Lachlan,
ideas for future presentations here.
yeah, I know. So I guess, and Sharon has said, stating the truth but not sounding like a salesman.
Yes.
Jody has said, making the content interesting and captivating, um, making it short and to the point, says Jody.
Yep.
And, Kathy has said, as in build yourself and your business up without being full of yourself. So,
Right. I
um,
think that's
yeah, there's
something.
lots of
I,
those, isn't
I think not sounding full of yourself is something us Aussies and
there?
the Brits really tune into. What's interesting coming over to America, Americans don't have that problem.
Yeah, and actually, one I'll just add as well is Fiona has mentioned writing with SEO in mind. And I know your co-podcaster is very SEO focused. So,
Yes, and SEO copywriting is something I have an SEO writing course. It's one of the core skills now as a modern online business person and copywriter. And I just want to let you know it's not as difficult as you think. So maybe we can talk
yeah,
about that.
okay, just so Natalie knows, SEO, sorry, is search engine optimization. So it's writing words that are going to attract the right customer to your website, I guess.
Yes, that's right. It's writing copy that Google understands so it can match you up with people searching, but also converts. So, if you're worried about SEO, write for people first, then think about SEO. But cool, that's, one of those things that came up is finding uniqueness, writing about original things, keeping it fresh and things like that. And I hope today's presentation is going to empower you with some angles that you can take, because let's have a look. I need to go back to my slides here. Let's go back. Now, uniqueness, we've got here a description, the quality of being the only one of its kind, or the quality of being particularly remarkable, special, or unusual. Now, I don't think many of us can really describe what we do as being particularly unique. I'm a copywriter. There are thousands of us, actually hundreds of thousands of us, and thanks to technology, I'm not competing with people in my local area. I'm competing with copywriters around the world. So, no pressure there. And the harsh truth is that not many of us are running businesses that offer something different. Hang on, excuse me. My That was my dog. He likes to come into my presentations. That's why I have to put him in the slides. But, this idea of being original, remarkable, unique is a pretty intimidating one because, as I said, more often than not, what we're doing isn't particularly original. But rather than thinking that what you do has to be 100% different from what everyone else does, let's begin by looking at some different ways that you can shine a spotlight on your business. That's what we're talking about today, because you can be in amongst a crowded market and have the spotlight on you, at least according to your customers. The point of having a spotlight on your business is so that customers notice you and choose you. So that's really what we're talking about, because I believe every business can differentiate itself with some tips, some techniques, and a little imagination, and you can apply these today. So the first tip I want to zero in on how to stand out in a crowd is having a unique brand personality. So this idea of branding goes way beyond a logo. Good branding starts with the personality of your business and the promises that you are making to your customers. So we're looking at the combination of stories and skills and style to help your business stand out. So how can you use your branding to make your business seem original and unique? So the branding that we're talking about is how your brand looks, the colors you use, the patterns you use, the styles you use in your designs. Yes, that's where your logo comes in, but that carries through to how your websites look, how your brochures look, how your flyers look, how your PowerPoint presentations look. It should all look cohesive. But then, sorry, too ahead. Then we have the stories that you tell. So these are the stories that you tell in your business that share its heart, its personality. We have the origin story of your business. I have an origin story, and I shared some of that with you. It's the moment that I found out copywriting was a thing. It's the way I hooked my current boss into being my retainer client. It's the way I started my business. When I tell that story, Kerry mentioned I have courses, I do coaching and things like that. When I share that story, it resonates really strongly with people who are interested in taking the same journey. And so you can do that with your business. You can share the origin story of how and why it began and why you stay in business as well. It's sharing the heart of your business, but it's also the stories of your employees. Your teams are just as an important part of the fabric and the heart of your business. So sharing a little bit of information about your team members, what they're into, and this can be a space where you're sharing, how and why they're skilled, like their knowledge and their experience and things like that. But it's also an opportunity to share maybe one little bit of information that is a personal contact, like that this person likes rock climbing, that this person has a pug, that this person loves thrillers. It's an opportunity to share a little bit more of a personal connection, because when a customer is choosing between businesses, and we're going to dig into this in a little more detail, they're looking for businesses that reflect a similar value set. So when you share stories of the start of your business and from your team and your values and things like that as a corporate entity, as a solo business, just as a business, you are allowing for a more human connection. And then we have how your brand sounds, and that's the tone of voice in your copy. So you saw this slide just flash up. Tone of voice is made up of three main elements. We have the vocab, the words you use, whether they're very much an everyday set of words or whether it's more at the high end, more sophisticated vocabulary. We have your cadence. This is the rhythm of your words. And that's not only the length of words, but the length of sentences. Generally speaking, the longer the sentence, the harder it is to read, and the more formal it is. The shorter the sentences, the easier it is to read, and the more casual it seems. To have a conversational tone of voice is to have a mix of short and long sentences, which creates a more interesting rhythm to your words. And then we have the tone, which is the mood and the energy. And all these things work together to create the tone of voice. And this is a really, really key way that you can differentiate yourself from the other people in your marketplace. So you can look different, you can share original stories that reflect the heart of your business, and you can sound different too. So what I want to explore that a little bit further, because if you're a very premium high-end brand, You might be positioning your products as very aspirational, and that can have its own tone of voice. You might also, or in the separate to that, you might want to be a voice of authority where you position yourself as an expert. That's a slightly different way of talking. Or you might want to have a voice of accessibility, that everyman kind of everyday tone of voice, where you're speaking on the reader's level and maybe you're translating complex ideas or new terminology. Now, you don't have to choose one, but I want to show you kind of there's different facets to how you sound, which will appeal to different types of customers. And I also want to show you an example of some copy that I wrote a little while ago that highlights a different distinct personality and some of the things I've been talking about. So this is a business called Pipe Perfection Plumbers. They're a plumber and they're in Sydney, as you can see, inner west and eastern Sydney plumbers. Now, the personality of their brand is very much grounded in being an expert. So they're very authoritative in terms of what they know. They're very experienced, but they're also very accessible. Their homepage has a lot of the credibility markers that I'm going to go through at the end of this presentation. They have very specific statements, 98% success rate. They have guarantees. They have logos of the people that they've worked with. Further down this page, they've got lots of testimonials and stuff like that. Lots of different ways to get in touch with them. But when we look at their services page, this is where the tone of voice, I loved writing this copy, becomes very, very accessible. They're very helpful. So a lot of the things that they do in their copy is empower their customers with knowledge. They're teaching their customers how to be informed about plumbing. They're teaching their customers how to be their customers. They use a mix of long and short sentences. You can see here, nasty smells, slow draining water, gurgling. I love a one-word sentence. And then the sentences start getting a bit longer. So there's that really conversational tone, mix of short and long sentences. And it feels like a real person talking. These are all symptoms of a blocked drain. And they use very casual language. I don't know if you can see this, but let me get rid of, I can't see that window. There we go, hang on. So I can read this. Fix the problem before your block drains back up and spew into your home or yard. Now, not many businesses are going to use the word spew in their copy, but this is a key part of their tone of voice. They're educational, they're expert, but they're speaking just like their customers speak. It's a very conversational tone of voice, and it feels like someone has almost just dictated this. Now, that kind of tone of voice isn't going to be right for every business. You may not want to use the word spew in your copy, but it gives this business a certain feeling, a certain vibe that customers will resonate with. And all those credibility markers that I kind of mentioned, and I'm going to wrap up with, offer proof that they can be trusted. So the big takeaway here is that how your marketing looks and sounds can help it stand out to customers. So don't be afraid to be a little bit different. If it resonates with the values and the vibe of your business, that's really what you're trying to tap into. How can we share our values and our heart in order to attract the kind of customers that really, really resonates? So don't try and sound like everyone else. Sound like you and sound like your customers. So the next technique I want to share is focusing on the details. So if your product or service isn't unique, it's time to dig into the details. And the example I want to show you first is a beer-related example. So if you've ever brewed your own beer, and my husband and I have brewed our own beer for years, if you understand the brewing process, or even if you don't, it uses water. Water is a very important part. Now, good beer can be brewed with almost any type of water, but the mineral quality will impact how the beer tastes. Little lesson there. So here we go. This is a Coors ad, and we can see here that they have highlighted a specific source of the water they use, brewed with Rocky Mountain water or nothing. So I feel like Bogues or Cascade has done this as well, but I couldn't find proof. So we're using Coors. Now, almost all beer brewers will use the same water, and almost all that water comes from a mountain stream at some point. But Coors were one of the first beer brewers, certainly in America, that shone a spotlight on the source of their water. Everyone used the same water, but no one else made a big deal about it. And that made this product seem completely original, seem completely unique. So another one, back to Pipe Perfection, they have this manifesto, right? So all these things are things that many plumbers, and I bet many of you do, but they specifically highlighted these in a manifesto, and it became their values for the business, right? So there's actually a lot of things that they do in the delivery of this manifesto that were quite unique to them. So they have a genuine uniqueness there, but in the whole landscape of plumbing, not really, but they are shining a spotlight on these values that helps this business stand out to customers because it's demonstrating the care and consideration they have for their customers. So how do you do this? Okay, you've got to write down all the details of your product and your service. So think about the product itself. How does it feel? How does it look? How does it smell? How does it sound? How is it used? This is a process where you've got to look at a thing from all different angles and just write it down. Then think about the place. How and where can people access your product or service? The packaging. Is there anything special about that? Is it recycled or recyclable? Useful, colourful, and this can also apply to other elements of your service delivery, such as your professional dress, your vans. Do your teams have uniforms? Are your vans branded? Think about that. Write it down. Pricing. Is there anything about your pricing that's particularly special, maybe? And people. How do your staff add value to your business, the way you deliver your service, and ultimately your customers? And you want to do this for your products and your service. Go through your service delivery with a fine-tooth comb, as if you were a customer. This is something I ask my clients to do, especially for service-based industries. I'm like, walk me through every single step that the customer sees and the customer doesn't see, and lay it all out for me. And without fail, there's more than one thing that I say, this is not in any of your marketing. Why don't you mention that? And someone will say, well, oh, it's just something we just do every time, or it's something everyone does. But the fact that I didn't know that, or it stood out as being particularly important, picks it up as a point that is worth shining a spotlight on. So maybe it's something that you always do. Maybe it's something about how fast you return reply to customers or pick up the phone, or maybe it's something like your team always wears shoe covers when they go on site to a customer's home. Think about the things that you do that are important to you as part of your delivery service, because that could be something that no one else does or no one else is talking about. And that's what we're trying to uncover here. Uncovering something that no one else does, and don't assume that everyone else does it the way you do it, or uncovering something that everybody does but no one else is talking about. And it really pays to spend some time writing everything down. Write down every detail from every angle. No detail is too small, because it's in the details that you might find a unique edge for your marketing. And if you're the first one that talks about it, everyone's, but we all do that. But no one is talking about it. Rocky Mountain water. Find your Rocky Mountain water. So the next one I want to highlight is explaining the why and the how. And this is where you can make rather mundane things a lot more interesting. So just because a product is marketable and people buy it doesn't mean it's exciting or it's unique, but you can give the features of your product and service a little more pizzazz by offering a bit more explanation. It's empowering your customers with knowledge, and it has the double whammy of also being more credible, more details, more specific, more credible. So dig into the story about why something exists, why a feature exists, or why a step in your process exists, or how it came about. Sometimes there's an interesting origin story to how something came about. So, if you use a specific type of wood, explain why. If you recommend a specific type of roofing sheet, explain why. If your designs are done in a specific way, explain why. This explanation empowers customers with knowledge that teaches them the right questions to ask, because if they get empowered with information from you and then they start going to your competitors, they've already built a trusting relationship with you because you're the one that empowered them with knowledge. And then they're asking questions that maybe other people aren't prepared to answer. And this also shows off your expertise and experience. So explain the why and the how and empower your customers. This one is a big one. Focus on a big benefit. And these are all ways that you can help your business stand out in a crowded marketplace. Because I'm going to teach you a specific technique that copywriters use and that I teach in my copywriting courses, and it's called the so what path to big benefits. So I want to take a quick step back and I've been talking about the word feature, and now I've said benefit. So a feature is something, it's a fact about your product or your service. It's something your product or your business or your service has. A benefit is how it impacts customers in a meaningful way. So there we go. A fact about your product or service, a benefit is the impact that it actually has. Get to you soon in a minute, lady. So let's have an example. Features, I mentioned before, shoe covers, right? That is a feature of a service delivery, that every team member puts on some shoe covers before they go into a client house, a customer house, and begin work. That's a feature, it's a fact. Now the benefit to customers, the impact to them is that they aren't left with a mess to clean up. So that's the benefit. And the process works like this. This is my lady here. And it's called the so what technique. So you take a feature of your product or your service or your business, and as I said, it's a fact about your product or service, your on-site parking, the booty covers, the branded vans, the widgets you sell, a specific design element. Clearly, that's all the examples I've got. But so you imagine explaining it to your customer, and they rather rudely turn to you and say, so what? Why should I care about that? So you have to dig a bit deeper. And so you go, well, that's because, or that means that, and you offer a more meaningful explanation. And they say, so what? Why should I care? And so you say, well, which means that you can, and you keep doing it, and they keep saying, so what? And you have to keep replying and replying and replying until you have a benefit that's genuinely meaningful to them. So each time you come up with a better reason, imagine someone saying, so what? And when you can't answer that so what question anymore, you're probably at a big benefit. So let's work through an example. The example I've picked is a waterproof membrane for a bathroom. So you say, we put in waterproof membranes when we install bathrooms. So what? Why should I care about that? Well, a waterproof membrane means that you don't get leaks in your bathroom because the water doesn't come through. So what? Why should I care about that? Which means that you don't have to worry about pulling the bathroom apart because there is a water leak destroying the floor under the bathroom. Okay, so what? So you can splash about in your bathroom knowing that the rest of your house is safe. So what? Why should I care about that? Well, that means you can have the wet room that you've always dreamed about. So you can go two ways. Okay, so you don't always have to end up with one benefit. Follow every rabbit hole. So you could say, You can have your dream wet room without the stress of leaks. Or we could talk about protecting the investment that you've made in your home. When you don't have to pull up the bathroom floor and fix the downstairs ceiling, the rest of your home and all the money you've spent on it is protected. So you can talk about bathroom waterproofing service, right? It's not unique, but instead of simply laying out the service and stopping there, you can pull your potential customer into their dream bathroom. Or the fact that your process actually, the fact that your process actually protects the investment they've made in their home. That is a big benefit. And that is what people will get excited about. And if you're the only one talking about a big benefit, you will be much more memorable and appealing to potential customers. And it might not even be something you specifically spell out. It might be something you incorporate in the images that you use. So the more meaningful the benefit, the more strongly it will connect and resonate with people. So it's really important. And it's very easy to stop at saving time, saving money. They're good benefits. But then you say, so what? I've saved some money. So what? It's what people do with the time and it's what people do with the money that is the big benefit. So I encourage you to go through this process. It's a bit like a muscle. It's hard when you get started, but the more you practice this, the easier it is. And the more you can really tune in to what it is your customers are really caring about. Why are they getting a new bathroom anyway? Why are they getting a plumber in? I've got very bathroom oriented examples because I've got bathrooms on the brain. Anyway, so ask you the question, why is a client looking for this service or product in the first place? What is their big vision? And can I tap into that with a big benefit? All right, so here we go. The wet room you've always dreamed of. I get talking and I don't move the slides on. This is what we've talked about. Sharing a unique brand personality. Talk in a way that resonates with the values of your business and that speaks in the language of your customers. And have that permeate every part of your branding. It's how you look, it's the stories you tell, and it's how you sound. Own it. Focus on what no one else is doing or no one else is talking about. Explain the why and the how to empower your customers with knowledge, or focus on a big benefit while everyone else is staying in the weeds of the features. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't talk about features, but as I said, if you're the only one talking about a big benefit, that will stand out. So now I want to get into some more copywriting techniques, but kind of continue on this theme of differentiating your business in a really crowded marketplace. And we're going to talk about writing customer-centric copy. So many businesses, when they write their own marketing, they focus on what they do. And that makes sense, right? When we're trying to tell people what we do, we tell them what we do. But you need your potential customers to feel a stronger connection to your business than any other business in the marketplace. And to do that, you have to make your customers feel like the spotlight is actually on them. So here's a bit of a checklist. As it says here, if you want people to connect more strongly with your business, you have to make them the star of the story you're telling. Here's that checklist. Speak to reader challenges. This shows your customers and your potential customers that you get them, that you understand where they're coming from, and you understand the problems that they are trying to solve. And part of that might not be an actual problem. Part of that might be showing them that you understand the vision that they're trying to get to. Explaining the impact of what you do. So that's the benefits as well as the features. Using the same language as your audience. If maybe you're selling high-end taps, you're marketing to a different kind of customer than someone who wants to hear the word spew, right? So think about how your business sounds and how your customers sound as well. Make your copy personal. So that's not just in the stories that you write, but it's how you write. And I'm going to come back to this in just a second. And it's sharing stories and experiences from your business and from customers. So putting these things together is what we call customer-centric copywriting. And it helps you make a connection because people aren't just looking for a widget or a thing or a bathroom or a service. They're looking to work with someone who understands them, that has a similar vibe and reflects what it is they actually want. It sounds a bit woo-woo, but if you think about the brands that you choose and the businesses that you choose, and think about the businesses you don't choose, you click with certain vibes and heart and stories and brands, and you choose them. And sometimes we need the features there to rationalize our decisions, but these decisions are often made very emotionally. So how do you make your copy more personal? The best way to make a piece of copywriting more personal is to speak to the reader directly, and the hallmark of that is using one of the most powerful words in the English language or any language, and that is this word on your screen right now, you. Now, some people think that speaking directly to your customer in your copy isn't professional. I'm calling BS on that. Your copy can still speak to your reader directly rather than speaking about them or around them, speaking to them, speak to their challenges, and speaking to them as if you were having a real conversation without you being unprofessional. So imagine your best salesperson, right? When they speak to a potential customer, they're tuned into the kind of problems that they're worried about. They are keen to demonstrate that these problems will be solved in the process, genuinely trying to solve these problems as well. They're authentic, they're friendly, they're charming, hopefully, persuasive. That's not unprofessional. That is all of those things and super professional. So when someone is reading your copy in your brochure or on your website, especially on your website, you're having a conversation that you're not actually there for, but the person reading the words is having quite an intimate moment. It's hard to explain it, but what you want to do is make your copy demonstrate that you understand where they're coming from and that you're speaking directly to them. The connection is much, much stronger if your copy sounds like a real conversation. Now, obviously, it's half the conversation, but with the Pipe Perfection Plumbers copy that I shared, that example, it sounded like something a real person would actually say, and that's a really important element. So a good rule of thumb, where's this? A good rule of thumb is to use the word you twice as much as words like I, we, our, and us. You want to shift the focus from saying, this is what we do, we're awesome, these are all our products, I can help you do this, to more of a conversation that you would have with a person in real life. Trust is the glue of life. This is the quote I have here. It's the most essential ingredient in effective communication. It's the foundational principle that holds together all relationships. So without trust, there is no foundation to a relationship, and the relationship between a customer and a business is just as strong and powerful as the relationship between friends. And what we've been talking about so far, empowering your customers with knowledge, understanding their challenges, speaking directly to them in your copy, all of these things help spark moments of connection and moments of trust. But there are other things you can do as well. So what I want to talk about with trust is sometimes called credibility markers. And these are the things that you need to prove that you're actually trustworthy, because you can say, trust me, I know what I'm talking about, but that's not actually trustworthy. You need to show off these little signposts that you've worked with people, that you've solved their problems, that they freaking loved it, and that you can be believed. So that's what we're going to wrap up with now, because what I want to highlight, and this is probably something you already know, but when customers are looking for a solution to the problem, when customers go online or they're searching, they're not looking for a business. They're looking for a solution to a problem. And they don't want to spend a lot of time searching. We're always trying to find shortcuts. So what we do, we ask our friends for advice. We look at the top rated, entries on Google if we're typing in the right things. We actively look for ways to shortcut the process of choosing a solution provider. And what we're doing is we're actually looking for ways to say no, because we need that list to be as short as possible. And all this is happening before someone has even picked up the phone or sent you an email. Almost the entirety of the decision-making process happens before someone gets in contact with you. So if you are relying on your customer service and your sales team and all those people at the front customer facing end, if you're relying on them to do the job of closing the deal, know that the customers usually have pretty much made up their mind before they even get in contact with you. So you need to catch, you're speaking to all those people who haven't even got in touch with you yet. And we can do that with these credibility markers. These are the kind of signposts that you can be trusted to help you make it through that shortlist process. So we have guarantees. If you are offer guarantees, talk about them, make them visible. And if you don't, I'm just going to throw out the question, why not? Guarantees are incredibly powerful. A guarantee says to a potential customer, I am so confident in what we're doing here that I'm going to put my money where my mouth is. Now, most of us are actually guarantee blind, which means we see guarantees so often, we're kind of blind to their power, but that doesn't mean they're not incredibly powerful. And because we see them so often, sometimes when we don't see them, it's a big void that makes you go, well, everyone else is offering a satisfaction guarantee. Why aren't they? Right? It sparks the question. And your customers will write their own story. They won't ask you that. They will make up the story and move you off the shortlist. Now, I'm not saying you have to have a guarantee, but if you don't have a guarantee, think about why not. Then we have social proof, collecting and sharing testimonials, and we have case studies. So a testimonial is usually a much shorter statement. It's a bit of a review. A case study is a much longer document outlining problem, solution, results. So make sure you are collecting testimonials as a regular part of your process. Each time you finish working with a client or a customer, ask them for a review. Sometimes when you ask people for a testimonial, they get a bit weird about it because they don't know what to say. But if you say, can I ask you a few questions to get a review of your experience? That opens a feedback loop, which is much less intimidating. So make sure you have this as part of your regular customer dealing service. Ask people for a review of their experience, and don't be shy about giving them some prompter questions. When I work with a client, I have 3 questions that I say, to get the ball rolling, because writing from a blank page, as someone highlighted in the intro, is really hard. So I say, what was the problem that you had when you booked me? How did you find the experience of working with me? And what are the results that you've had since our discussion? And then I say, you can actually write whatever you want. When you're done, could you please post this in these places? So don't be afraid to tell them what to write, with some questions to guidance and ask them to post their review in other places, because people might have had the best experience in the world, but unless you give them a call to action to actually write a review and post it somewhere, it will just fall off their radar. So don't be shy about doing that. And for really maybe complex projects or people who have really freaking loved working with you, maybe explore the idea of getting it written up into a longer case study. These are just more credible because they're more specific. And we have industry bodies you belong to. Share logos, share names, have them visible everywhere. Industry awards you've won. If you win something, put that everywhere. You know, on your blog, on your social media, have logos and stuff on your homepage, on every page. Share it around. All these kind of things, don't share them once. You're in a constant, wall of people moving past you. You have to keep sharing the same messages over and over again because you will always be hitting new people. Media features. If you've had any kind of media coverage, promote that, share that, and keep it visible. Not just like, oh, it's old news now. Keep it visible. And there's also logos of the people that you've worked with, right? Had any high profile clients? Get their logos. Not had high profile clients, but if you work in a B2B space, you've worked with lots of businesses, put their logos up. All of these things are signposts that you have worked with people, that you have solved their problem, that you know what you're doing, and they freaking loved it. Now, the last ones I've got here are transparency and specificity. And I've mentioned a few times, empowering your customers with knowledge. And this is where blogs are incredibly powerful. A lot of people worry that they're giving it all away and that people will be able to take their knowledge and use it themselves. And some people will, some people might. But if you are, if you have a business like a plumber that you're dealing one-on-one with people, teach them that it's actually very hard to solve this problem, right? Because people very rarely will go and do it themselves. But when you educate them, they will trust you. And then you're the person they get in. Anytime that you can give people a reason not to shop around, do it. So explain the details of your service. Explain the process that you follow. Demonstrate that there is method in what you do, and that method comes from experience and knowledge. And this last one is being specific. Really, really specific. Don't tell me how many parts. Don't tell me many parts. Don't tell me some things, many things, some things. You should never use those words in your copy. Be specific. Tell me exactly how many. When you have that percentage, 98%, a very specific number. If it was 97.7 or 98.2, I would say use it. And whenever you can say, can I be more specific in this? Do it, because more specificity, being more specific, is more believable. Being more believable is more credible, and that's where people will trust you more. So if you have these credibility markers, make sure that they are in your copy, that they are on your website, that they are in your brochures, that they are on your blog, that they are on your business cards, that they are mentioned in conversations with your potential customers, because these are the things that even if people don't know they're noticing when they're not there. So, that was fast. Let's dig into some questions. Kerry, do we have any questions yet?
Yeah, let's just see. People will start typing in as we speak. But I have a couple of questions just to get the ball rolling. So
fantastic. I'm just going to close my door. Hang on. Oh God.
Yeah, that's okay.
The dog want to come in.
You're very popular. I love the example of the water, and I know we chatted about that, about one of the things to do is to dig down and find out what is something that you can, I guess, expand on in your business? And I'd be really interested to see if some members have been thinking about that and can think of some part of their service or some part of their product that perhaps they could shine the light on and make a little bit more unique.
Mm.
So Melissa has asked, should your copy be in the first person or third person?
Oh, good question. I like the first person because I like copy that speaks directly to the customer. So when I'm talking about directly to the customer, I mean, rather than saying our customers sometimes have problems with this. Like our customers often have problems with this. You say, do you have this problem? Speak directly to the customer. And in terms of the first person, third person, if you're a solo business owner, definitely make it first person. You're the face and the name of your business, even if you don't want to be, but that can be a way that you differentiate yourself. Now, if you have a team, so that's when you'd say me, I do this. If you have a team, you would then reference your business name in the third person, but you would use pronouns like we and us. Make it sound like there is a team of people who genuinely care and the message come from us. What we do is when you work with us, I think that is much more powerful for people because, people buy from people, and it's as soon as you put it in the third person, it's more formal, which is okay because that really fits well with some businesses, but it puts up a barrier and it just makes that point of connection a little bit harder to do. So you can reference your business in the third person, but then if you have teams and you're a big company, talk about we, us, the team, our values. Really connect in with the fact that it comes from people.
And so when you were talking earlier about, using the word you, so
Mm-hmm.
you just directly do that, like say you have this issue, is that how you should approach it or?
Yeah, so this is a technique that I use is imagine at least the first time you draft something, imagine that you're speaking directly to one person sitting next to you. Maybe you sort of take the approach of trying to persuade a friend you're having coffee with why something's a good idea. When you do that, you speak to them and you use the word you a lot because it's a one-on-one conversation. But when we write our copy, we instantly kind of step back and we become aware that we're speaking to a lot of people. But when someone's reading it, it's just them reading the message. So when you're writing, imagine that you're speaking to just one person. And at least for the first draft, imagine that that person is right in front of you. And you will automatically use the word you a lot because that's what we do in real conversations.
And I know what I do is I often will I always read things back out aloud. It's very annoying for my person I share an office with here, poor
Yeah.
Megan, but I find if I don't read it back, and what I do when I read it back is then I can go through and actually cut out some unnecessary words as well, because sometimes you're a little bit too formal, aren't you? And then when you read it and you hear it, you hear that there's actually words that you don't really need to have in there.
Absolutely. And that's a really great technique to pick up clunky wording because if you can't read it aloud, then someone can't read it quietly either. The brain will trip up. And anything that's in your copy that will distract someone from the message, like if they have to concentrate on reading, they're starting to drift away. And if it's too hard, click, close. It's just too hard.
Yeah, and I think that point you made about, you can even have one word sentences these days. I know I've talked previously with, I guess we'll talk, I think, in an SEO webinar, but the idea that everything that you learnt in English, you can throw out the window because you don't
Yes.
have to, you still want to check your spelling. I mean, that's a bugbear of mine, but getting your spelling correct. But other than that, there seems to be less rules and regulations these days.
Absolutely, because it's all about So many more businesses, not just small businesses, but really, really big businesses. If you look at a lot of SaaS, software as a service companies, they're bringing it down to a more personal level. Everything feels a little more casual and a little more conversational. And when we're talking to people in real life, we have a sentence and we start another sentence with the word and or but or, so all those kind of formal academic language constructs aren't how we talk in real life. And the more you can make your copy feel like a real person said it or could actually say it, the stronger the connection. All those kind of barriers go away. So yeah, imagine you're talking to a real person. Have you had this problem? Are you looking for a bathroom? Are you, asking questions is also a really good way to ask questions that have a yes answer is a great way to kind of address problems and then go into your solution.
That's a very good tip. Getting the person, the psychology there, they're already saying yes. And so
Yes.
you're hoping that that sort of positive feel. So,
Mm.
anybody got any questions while you have an expert copywriter on the line? I would highly recommend typing in your questions now. And Belinda, you're even happy to have a quick look at somebody's, a little bit of copy and see if there's something that you would recommend.
Oh,
I'm sure you're such a good editor at stuff. Yvonne has said, I've been doing a lot of this through experience, but it's great to see it in black and white and with a
yeah.
checklist. Thank you. And
You're
sometimes it's easy to forget,
validating.
isn't it? When you've
Yeah,
done
that's exactly
things,
right.
a certain way for a lot of years, it's easy to, I guess, forget some of these things. I know earlier we were talking about, I know I've read a little bit around sort of taking people on a bit of a journey as well, and you're almost like the guide. Is that something that you recommend? So I think you're talking about, I guess, empowering them and teaching them. So if you
Yeah.
think of yourself, and I know the example that I've seen is um, out of Star Wars. So
Yes, the hero's journey.
the hero's journey, that's it.
Yeah. So there is, you probably heard there are only 7 stories to tell, but there are these definite storytelling constructs that in copywriting we use a lot of. And part of that hero's journey is making your customer the hero of the story. And that's using some of the techniques that I've shared today, is identifying their problems, talking about the challenges that they're having, speaking directly to them about it. So it's not about me, it's all about you. And then having your business or your solution become the guide to the customer's ultimate transformation. So, we don't we don't we don't buy a bathroom, we buy our dream vision. It's just that we don't buy a widget, we buy what the widget lets us become and the person we want to become. So it sounds like I know when you hear this for the first time, you're like, it's just a bathroom membrane. But if you can push past that and think ultimately about what it is your customers are coming to you to get to, that's what you should tap into. And that's that kind of big benefit as well.
Yeah, so you're thinking that next step of really what they want to achieve, and they don't need all the actual nitty gritty, I guess, of the steps there, but I guess how you take them on that journey to achieve that end goal.
Yeah.
I didn't
And
say
there's
that
that
in.
thing about the emotional and the rational. So we need all the nitty gritty to tell our
Mm.
rational brain that the emotional decision that we've already made was the right one.
So how do
So
you then, so you start off with the benefit and then talk about the features, or?
yeah, that's one thing I like to do. So one of the things I like to do is follow a copywriting formula called pain, agitate, solve, outcome, PASO. And it's a common one. If you Google it, you'll probably find a popular blog that I wrote on it. But you open up by talking about the challenges of your audience. And this is particularly good for long form sales pages and more expensive products and stuff like that. It can be used in any piece of copywriting, opening with the challenges, which tells your audience that you get them, you know where they're coming from. And the more specific you can make them, remember, you only ever want to try and speak to one person. As soon as you try and speak to everyone, you start to dilute your message. But then you can agitate that problem with a few more details and then you go into the solution. And when you start talking about your solution, you might open up with what I call the dreamscape, like that ultimate vision of where it is that they want to go. And then I start breaking it down with more and more and more and more and more details. So it's point of connection, and then going into the solution with your big benefit, and then getting more and more and more details, because you basically want to hook people on the vision and then get them to convince their rational brain that the decision's already made and it's a good one.
And so if you're doing your About Us page, because I know that's
Mm-hmm.
another one that's always a bit tricky on the website, would you recommend, like how would you, when you're sitting down with a blank page, again, how would you craft that first sentence?
Well, we got a webinar all on this. One of the techniques that I teach is I often write a letter. So I start with, Dear Jane, or, dear whatever, dear name of my ideal client avatar. And, that can kind of it breaks that blank page. One of the things you're trying to do is you're trying to say, here are some problems that like, if you came here looking for this, you're in the right place. So you really want to connect with what it is they're ultimately looking for. Then you want to explain why you're the best person for them, but not in a kind of LinkedIn resume kind of way, but in a way that says, these are the things I know about and these are the things I've done, and this is why that's meaningful to you. And then you can go into more detail from there. But ultimately, you're trying to say, this is what I have done, and this is who I am, and this is why that's meaningful for you. And sometimes just starting it as if you're writing a letter to someone somehow makes it a bit easier.
That's a good tip. It gives it that sort of personal touch as well, doesn't it?
Yeah. And then you take that off the top.
Do you find, I know we always talk about, getting your ideal avatar and writing to that person, and that's something I've sometimes struggled with because,
Mm.
and I know a lot of our members have, a broad range of customers.
Mm-hmm.
So would it be an idea to maybe think of an avatar, but maybe not a specific person, but maybe a problem that their avatar has, a common problem?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so, customer avatars get talked about a lot in the copywriting and marketing world. They're a kind of an older construct, but I think they still have some use. But you don't want to think about, Beth is 45 and she lives in South Yarra and she drives this kind of car and stuff like that. What you want to think about is, what do they want? What do they desire? What problems do they have? Think about those kind of categories that bring some commonality. And another thing you might want to think about is that you might have different services that appeal to different kinds of people. So just kind of think about any differences in that. It doesn't have to be one customer for your entire business. And, customers are also in different parts of a journey as well. So customers are working through different called stages of a buying cycle, where they have a need and then they do some research and compare it. Like, they're unaware of their need, they're suddenly aware that they have a problem, they start researching and comparing solutions, and then they take action and make a purchase, and then there's a post-purchase thing. And at each different stage, customers need slightly different information. So rather than thinking about a client avatar, maybe think about the problems that people are having in their different stages and the information they need to move closer and closer to purchase, because no one recognizes that they have a problem and then goes straight to buy something. There's a whole lot of steps going through, and different pieces of marketing serve different purposes.
Okay, we're just past what's 3 p.m. here in Sydney, Coffs Harbour, and I understand people may have to jump off, but Belinda, can you hang around for a few more minutes because I do have a few more questions?
Yeah, just a few more minutes, yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to remind everybody there will be a survey at the end. It will pop up when you leave, so please fill that in. We are looking to do more webinars, not this year, probably next year. I know everyone, it's the starting to get into the busy season. So I'd love to get any feedback on any topics. And and always like to get any suggestions and yeah, anything you'd like to hear about, please let us know. So I'm going to read you out Scott's. He said it's more a statement, but
Hmm.
Scott has said more a statement than a question. I'm currently writing copy for our updated website. After
Hmm.
listening to this brilliant webinar, I now have a fair bit of rewriting to do. Oh no. Any
It's all
quick
right.
suggestions for writing copy for a company website, length, sort of pages, etc. So, and that was something I was going to ask, do people sometimes feel as though they have to write a lot to seem important, but these
Yeah.
days maybe less is more if
Yeah.
they're hitting the nail on the head.
Yeah, absolutely. So don't be intimidated by how much you have to write, Scott. Think about like, one of these obtuse things that copywriters say is only write as much copy as you need. Like, that's not an answer. Generally speaking, something that is more expensive will need a little bit more sell. So that's because people are looking for ways to justify the money, right? You tap into the big vision that they want, that dreamscape, and they need the features and the explanation and stuff like that to get the rational brain on board. So, generally speaking, more expensive things can need a little bit more copy, but that's not always the case. You basically want to make sure that people know that you understand where they're coming from and that you know what they want, that you have what they want, and the rest and what they need to do next. So I haven't talked about calls to action. It's really important that every single piece of your marketing, every page needs a headline and a call to action. The call to action tells them what it is they need to do. It's very easy for us to assume that people will know. Oh, I've just given you lots of information and the phone number's at the top. So surely you'll figure out that you need to give us a call. No, people will not connect the dots unless you connect it for them. So make sure every page has a call to action. But in terms of what you need to communicate, you need to, I always say, understand the challenges, let them know that you have the right solution, shush, and let them know what it is they need to do.
Okay, I hope that helped, Scott.
And
Yes, you
sorry, I'm
said
just going to
great
add one more
advice.
bit,
Sure.
is more often than not, our first paragraph, maybe even more, is, I'm just going to keep the talk shut up. The first paragraph or more is often warm up copy. So when you're looking at the copy you've written, take out that first paragraph and see if it makes a difference. Because more often than
Hmm.
not, it doesn't make a difference at all.
Good tip. Good tip.
Yeah. It's often throat clearing copy where we're just kind of easing ourselves into it, but it's not needed.
Yeah, yeah. And these days, with people with such short attention spans, you really do need to make that connection. You can't expect they're going to scroll down the page necessarily, and especially
No,
with
that's
people
exactly right.
looking on mobile phones as well. So
Yeah,
fantastic. Scott said thank you, great advice. Leanne has
you're
said
welcome.
thank you, Belinda and Kerry, great, and she appreciates your advice and help. So,
Oh, good. So did I.
ah,
There was so much stuff I wanted to put in, but I tried to keep it on focus on
I
topic.
know it's look, we always get that with our webinars. There's always so much we could try and cram in. So and sometimes we just scratch the surface, but hopefully it gets people thinking. It gets
Yes.
people I guess looking at something a different way. And perhaps even today, I'm always happy if our members just even take one thing away and it's helpful for their business. So
Yeah.
um, yeah, so you're getting lots of thank yous here. So thank you from Danielle and Kylie. And I know we're going to have to let you go because you have a young family and you're going to have to get everybody sorted out for bedtime over there. So thank you
Yeah.
again. I have some people who are interested in learning more a little bit about your online courses. So I might touch base with you about that and pass
Hmm.
on some details if that's okay.
Yep. This is me
Oh,
here.
there you are.
Basically, if you just search Belinda Weaver, look for a ginger person. Copyright Matters is where I am. I have a daily email, a daily copywriting email, if you want very, very short daily tips on copywriting. So that's often a great place to start if you're just looking for extra inspiration.
Yeah, and you have that short mini course too, don't you?
Oh, yeah.
The free
Yes.
one, which maybe I'll
Yes.
send that link to people too, because I found
Yes.
that really helpful. Actually, that's how
Perfect.
sort of I found you, because I'm always, stalking potential presenters. So
Love it.
fantastic. So, yep, Natalie, Jody, thank you, everybody. Thank you again, Belinda. If any members have questions afterwards, you can always send them through to me and we can get it sorted. Please keep a lookout for the recording of this on our website. I'll send you the link. And Belinda, thank you again. I know you've just
My
written an
pleasure.
article for us as well, so there'll be some more tips in that, and that will come
Yep.
out in one of the next editions of our online housing. So lots of information there, and hopefully we can do some more work next year. We can
I would
maybe
love
dig
that.
deeper in some of these topics. So
Yes, I would love
fantastic.
it.
Well, thank you again, and goodbye to sunny California. I hope it's sunny at the moment. I guess it's starting to get chillier.
Yes, it is, but it's California cold, which is kind of like saying Brisbane cold,
Brisbane cold. That's
Not
true.
really.
That's true. Thanks again, and good afternoon, everybody. Thanks again for joining us, and thanks for joining us at a little bit later than unusual. So I'd be interested to find out if that was better for you. I know for WA it's a nice time for you, a little bit later in the day. Thanks again, everybody. Bye.
Bye.